They don't remember you because you were perfect. They remember how you made them feel. That's the secret no one tells you. It's not your looks, your status, or your intelligence that makes people obsessed. It's the emotional imprint you leave behind. Most people are forgettable not because they lack value, but because they never trigger the one thing the brain remembers forever: emotion. This video isn't about manipulation. It's about mastery, emotional mastery. Today, I'm revealing the 8 emotional triggers that make people think about you long after you're gone. That make your energy linger in rooms you've already left. That turn average conversations into unforgettable moments. If you've ever felt invisible, overlooked, or like people forget you too quickly, stay until the end. Because when you learn these triggers, you'll never have to chase attention again. You'll become the one they can't ignore. What makes someone unforgettable? Is it charisma? Looks? Charm? No, it's emotional connection. Here's the psychological truth. The brain remembers emotion before information. It doesn't store what you said, it stores how someone felt in your presence. And most people? They don't know how to trigger emotion on purpose. They stumble into connection, or they default to small talk and surface-level energy, and wonder why people don't stick around. But high-value people, the ones who walk into a room and command attention without trying, they understand something deeper. They know how to create emotional resonance, not just interest. They know how to activate emotional triggers that stick with people long after the moment has passed. In this video, we're unpacking the 8 emotional triggers that make you unforgettable, whether in dating, networking, friendship, or leadership. These triggers will change how you communicate, how you carry yourself, and how people connect to you. Let's start with a story that might feel a little too familiar. Let me tell you about Sam. Sam was the type of person who always got called nice, pleasant, polite, great listener, easy to talk to, but somehow never memorable. In dating, he was always the guy who texted first, who planned the dates, who tried to impress. And yet, they never called back. In social settings, people liked him, but no one went out of their way to get to know him. Sam's life was full of almost connections, almost relationships, almost opportunities, almost invitations. Until one day, after yet another dead-end situationship, Sam asked a coach the question most of us are too afraid to ask. Why do people forget me so easily? The coach didn't hesitate. He said, because you don't activate emotion. You're safe, but you don't leave a mark. That hit Sam hard. Because deep down, he knew it was true. He had been so focused on being agreeable, non-threatening, and likable, that he forgot to be impactful. So he started studying psychology, human behavior, communication. And slowly, he learned to stop playing it safe, and start speaking to what people actually remember: emotion, intensity, contrast, depth. Fast forward 2 years? Sam is magnetic. Not because he's loud. Not because he changed his appearance. But because he learned to activate the emotional triggers that human memory can't ignore. And now, so will you. Let's break it down. The human brain doesn't remember data, it remembers emotion. And not just any emotion, it remembers emotional spikes. Moments that disrupt the normal pattern. That makes someone feel something. Why? Because your brain is wired for survival. It prioritizes what stands out over what is simply pleasant or nice. What is emotionally intense gets stored. What is emotionally flat gets deleted. That's why people don't remember the hundreds of people they've met casually, but they never forget the one person who triggered desire, curiosity, pain, inspiration, or vulnerability. This is why emotional triggers are so powerful. They bypass logic and go straight to the limbic system, the emotional core of the brain. That's what makes someone stick. Bullseye: the 8 emotional triggers that make you unforgettable. Let's get into it, trigger by trigger. These are the exact emotional activators the most magnetic people use to leave lasting impressions. Fire trigger 1. Intrigue through contrast. Humans remember contrast. Someone who's mysterious and grounded. Confident but quiet. Warm but distant. When you break the pattern, people remember you. When you're too predictable, they forget you. How to use it? Be unafraid to show multiple layers. Don't be just nice, be nice and assertive. Don't be just mysterious, be mysterious and emotionally warm when earned. Contrast creates intrigue, and intrigue equals memory. Speech balloon. Trigger 2. Emotional vulnerability. We're drawn to people who feel safe enough to be real, especially in a world obsessed with looking fine. Most people stay on the surface. But the people we remember are the ones who say, here's what I really felt, and here's what I did with it. How to use it. Stop offering perfection, start offering process. Tell stories where you were messy, lost, confused, but real. People don't bond with your image. They bond with your inner world. High voltage. Trigger 3. Emotional precision. It's not just what you say. It's how precisely you say it. People who use emotional language, not vague cliches, create deeper impact. Instead of, I was sad, say, I felt like I was holding back a scream in a crowded room. Emotionally unforgettable people use language that paints the inner world. How to use it? Describe your feelings with vivid, unique language. Create images, metaphors, emotional specificity. That's how you imprint someone's brain. Anti-clockwise arrows. Trigger 4. Controlled unpredictability. The brain craves novelty. Predictability equals safety. But too much safety? It becomes boring. You become unforgettable when you're not easily labeled. How to use it? Be surprising, not inconsistent, but unpredictable with purpose. Be deep when they expect shallow. Ask bold questions when they expect small talk. Stay silent when they expect over-explaining. Unpredictability equals emotional spike. Magnet. Trigger 5. Challenging their identity. Most people surround themselves with comfort. You become unforgettable when you challenge their limiting beliefs. You keep saying you're bad at love. But are you bad at love, or are you avoiding depth? Boom. That's an emotional slap, in the best way. How to use it? Call out contradictions with compassion. Mirror their potential, not their fear. Be the person who disrupts their old story. That's what unforgettable people do. Wave. Trigger 6. Presence in silence. Most people fear silence. But emotionally magnetic people? They command it. They don't rush to fill space. They let silence do the talking. And in doing so, they create emotional intensity. How to use it? When someone finishes a story, pause. Hold eye contact. Let their words land before reacting. That pause? It makes people feel deeply seen. Bullseye. Trigger 7. Purposeful eye contact. Eye contact isn't just visual. It's emotional. And when done with intention, it creates an invisible bond. How to use it? When someone is being vulnerable, don't look away. When you say something powerful, let your eyes match your words. Eye contact, when held without anxiety or agenda, says, I see you. I'm not afraid to connect. That alone can make someone think about you for weeks. Fire. Trigger 8. Owning your shadow. Most people hide their flaws. They lead with their best self and bury their shame. But unforgettable people integrate their shadow and own it. Yeah, I used to need validation. I still fight that part of me sometimes. But now I know how to ground myself. That level of honesty? It disarms people. It creates emotional resonance. How to use it? Stop hiding the parts you're still working through. Speak them with clarity and self-ownership. People are not inspired by your perfection. They're inspired by your integration. Before you master these triggers, let's be honest about why most people don't. Here are the emotional wounds that keep you forgettable, no matter how good your heart is. Crossmark. Wound 1. Fear of rejection equals playing it safe. You don't show depth because you don't want to scare them off. So you stay easy to be around, and become easy to forget. Crossmark wound 2. Childhood invisibility equals over-accommodating. If you weren't emotionally seen as a kid, you likely learned to adapt, to please, to blend in. You became the peacemaker, not the impact maker. Crossmark wound 3. Shame equals perfectionism. You hide your flaws and lead with overperformance. But the pressure to be impressive disconnects people from your essence. Crossmark wound 4. Identity crisis equals copying others. You've never fully explored your voice, so you imitate others. But imitation doesn't trigger emotion. Authenticity does. Crossmark wound 5. Emotional numbness equals flat energy. If you've been through trauma, you might have shut down emotionally to survive. But that numbness makes your presence quiet. People can't feel you, and therefore, they forget you. If emotional triggers are the key to being unforgettable, then the challenge is this: how do you use them authentically without trying too hard, overthinking, or turning into someone you're not? Let's walk through the practical ways to avoid sabotaging your own emotional resonance. Checkmark avoidance strategy 1. Stop trying to impress. Start trying to resonate. You don't need to be the smartest or most interesting person in the room. You need to be the one who makes people feel something real. Impressing leads to pressure. Resonating leads to connection. How to apply it? Instead of thinking, how do I look confident? Ask, how do I make this moment emotionally memorable? Checkmark avoidance strategy 2. Don't overshare. Reveal with purpose. There's a huge difference between dumping your emotions and directing them. Oversharing too fast actually repels people. Revealing at the right moment, with emotional control, pulls people in. How to apply it? Use vulnerability like seasoning, not the whole meal. Hold your power while telling the truth. Don't bleed, narrate. Checkmark avoidance strategy 3. Kill the nice persona. Being nice isn't bad. But when it's your entire personality, you become bland. People remember contrast, edges, opinion, clarity. Not people who just smile and nod. How to apply it? Say what you mean. Hold boundaries. Express disagreement with confidence. Let people experience the real you, not the edited one. Checkmark avoidance strategy 4. Practice emotional pausing. Magnetic people don't rush. They allow pauses, space, depth. How to apply it? Next time someone says something intense or revealing, don't interrupt with your own story. Pause. Let the moment breathe. Look at them. Feel the silence. Then speak. This creates emotional gravity, the kind that makes people feel deeply seen. Checkmark avoidance strategy 5. Feel more in private, so you can speak powerfully in public. If you haven't processed your own emotional wounds, you'll either overshare to release pressure, or shut down to avoid pain. Either one makes your energy unstable. How to apply it? Journal, meditate, reflect. Get to know your own emotional landscape so that when you speak, you're not performing, you're sharing from grounded truth. Let's bust some damaging myths that are keeping you emotionally invisible, even when you're doing everything right. Crossmark myth 1. Being low-key makes me mysterious. Nope. Being low-key often makes you forgettable, not mysterious. Mystery isn't about being distant. It's about intentionality with layers. Unforgettable people don't hide, they reveal slowly. Crossmark myth 2. If I'm too emotional, I'll push people away. Only if your emotions are chaotic and unregulated. But when you express deep emotion with grounded energy, you pull people in like a magnet. Emotions are not the problem. Unprocessed ones are. Crossmark myth 3. I have to be loud to be memorable. False. Some of the most unforgettable people are quiet, but intentional. They choose their words like gold. They speak less, but every sentence hits. Unforgettable energy isn't about volume. It's about resonance. Crossmark myth 4. I need to fit in to be liked. No, you don't become unforgettable by fitting in. You become unforgettable by being honest when others won't. By standing in your truth when others fold. By being brave enough to be different. Crossmark myth 5. People only remember those with status or looks. That's surface level influence, not emotional impact. Real connection has nothing to do with looks or followers. It has to do with how people feel in your presence. And emotional mastery? That's accessible to anyone willing to learn. Imagine this version of you. You walk into a room, and people feel your presence before you say a word. You speak, and your words don't just land, they linger. You connect, and it's not surface level, it's soul level. This is what happens when you master emotional triggers. You stop trying to be impressive, because you've become impactful. You no longer chase validation, attention, or chemistry. Because you create emotional resonance wherever you go. Let's look at what shifts in your identity. Light bulb, you go from overthinking to anchoring. Before, you were trapped in your head. Did I say the right thing? Did they like me? Should I follow up or fall back? Now? You trust your emotional gravity. You're not second-guessing. You're observing. You're not performing, you're expressing. You speak less, but what you say hits deeper. Speech balloon, you go from small talk to soul talk. You don't waste energy on fluff. You ask real questions. You create real space for people to be vulnerable. And that's why they remember you. Fire, you go from forgettable to unshakably unforgettable. Why? Because you don't play by surface rules anymore. You're fluent in emotional language. You know how to speak to the part of people that feels, not just the part that listens. And in a world of distraction, noise, and emotional disconnection, you become the rare presence they can't stop thinking about. You've just unlocked a psychological blueprint that most people will never understand. The question now isn't, will this work? It's, will I use it? So here's what to do next. Checkmark step 1. Comment below with one emotional trigger you'll practice this week. Will you focus on contrast? Eye contact? Emotional precision? Silence? Integration of your shadow? Let me know below down finger, and if this video hit something deep, comment. I refuse to be forgettable. Repeat button step 2. Rewatch the triggers and journal, pick the one that scares you the most. That's your edge. That's your emotional doorway. That's where transformation lives. Practice it, reflect, rewatch. This isn't a performance trick. This is an emotional upgrade. Outgoing mail step 3. Send this to someone who needs to hear it. We all know someone who's playing it safe, being nice, and wondering why people don't feel connected to them. Help them out. Hit share, send it. Be the emotional catalyst they didn't know they needed. Brain step 4. Subscribe to Unshakable You. This channel isn't for people who want temporary motivation. It's for people who want lasting emotional transformation. So if you're serious about becoming unforgettable in your career, your relationships, and your presence, tap subscribe. Join a community that builds emotional depth, not just surface attraction. Fire final words. You don't have to yell to be remembered. You don't have to chase to be chosen. You don't have to change yourself to be magnetic. You just have to speak the language of emotion. That's what people remember. That's what people feel. And if you can make someone feel something real, you'll never be forgotten again.